8 green, red, and yellow. Mr. Mack here. Let's hopefully you've already finished the pre-assessment. Don't watch this until you've completed the pre-assessment and scored it and then recorded your answers. You're coming here if you have questions and you want to see how things are explained. So the radicals pre-assessment. First one, adding radicals. We see that these two radicals have like radicals, and that will allow us to combine their coefficients. So since they are like radicals, we're going to combine their coefficients, which makes 5 rad 2. 2 plus 3 makes 5. Next one, these are unlike radicals at the moment, but we also need to remember to see if we can simplify the radical. So rad 5 cannot be simplified, but rad 45 can be broken into rad 9, rad 5. And then I'm going to take rad 9 and I'm going to take the square root of that, which makes 3. And then this becomes 3 rad 5 minus 6 rad 5 because these two are on the outside. And 3 rad 5 minus 6 rad 5 gives us negative 3 rad 5. We have like radicals, so we're going to combine their coefficients. Positive 3, negative 6. Now we move towards multiplication, and when we multiply, we're looking for like radicals so they can come out of the house. So I'm looking to match that rad 2 up. Are there factors of 10, rad 10, that would match up with rad 2? Yeah, rad 10 I'd break into rad 5, rad 2, and then I'd bring down the rad 2. And since they are like radicals being multiplied, they come out of the house, so that now becomes a 2 out of the house, and the rad 5 stays inside of the house. We have rad 12 and rad 15. There's a couple ways of going about doing this. I can look for a perfect square, but I also notice that there's a perfect square, and I'm going to have rad 3, rad 5 in there. Notice what I did with the negative sign. I wrote the negative 1. So a couple things here. We're going to have 4, square root of 4, which equals 2. We have my negative 1. So technically it's negative 1 times 2. I got that from the square root of 4. And then we have rad 3 times rad 3. So that will pop a 3 out of there. And then rad 5 is left in the house. So negative 1 times 2 times 3 is negative 6 rad 5. Lots of different ways to do this problem, but to me I think that that's the most efficient. Number 5, I'm going to break up rad 15, rad x cubed to rad x squared, rad x. I have my negative 2. I have my rad 4. In fact, I'm going to break up rad 15 into rad 5, rad 3. Not a bad thing to go back and change your work once you see something being able to pair up. So I saw that I was going to get a rad 5, so that's why I broke down that rad 15 to rad 5. So that would produce 5. I don't have a match for rad 3. My square root of x squared gives me x. I have square root of x that is left over. Also doesn't have a pair. I have my times negative 2. I have the square root of 4, which is also 2. I've already taken care of my rad 5, and then I have square root of x squared, which equals x. So those are all the outsides. The yellows are things that stay on the inside. So I have 5 times negative 2 times 2, which gives me negative 20. I have x and x, which gives me x squared. And then I have things still in the radical. So negative 20x squared rad 3x. 4 times, well, I'm going to break that into rad 2, rad 5, rad a squared, rad a, rad 4, rad 2, rad a. Ooh, I'm going to go back. I'm going to keep it as rad a cubed, because those are going to match. So I have rad 2 and rad 2 is a match. I have rad a cubed as a match. I have a perfect square. And then I have this as a leftover. And that's it. So everything is taken care of. So let's go. We got 4. We have 2 because of rad 2 times rad 2. We have another 2 because of square root of 4. And then we have a cubed because we have rad a cubed. And then in my leftover is rad 5. So that's 4 times 2 is 8 times 2 is 16a cubed rad 5. Keeping track of it's going to be very important so you don't lose stuff. All right, now we move to division, and I need to rationalize. I can't have a radical in the denominator, so I need to get rid of it. What's going to get rid of a rad 5 is a rad 5. And whatever I multiply the denominator, I need to multiply the numerator in order to keep it as a value, as an equivalent value. This always has to be a value of 1. So we have 4 rad 3 times rad 5 gives me 4 rad 15, radicals with radicals. We know that we multiplied it by itself in order for it to come out. So that gives me 4 rad 15 over 25. 4 and 25 are on the outside. They can't be reduced. You cannot simplify the rad 15 with the 25 because one's in a radical and one is outside. We have 3 over 4 rad 2. So I'm going to rationalize it by multiplying by rad 2 over rad 2. This gives me 3 rad 2 over 4 times 2, which is 3 rad 2 over 8. Now we have some variables in here. I'm going to simplify this first. I see that that is a perfect square. So that's going to produce x squared rad 2. And then I have 3 rad 5x. So if I rationalize it, I'm going to multiply it by 5x over 5x. That leaves me with x squared times 10, rad 10x. This produces 3 times 5x. And instead of multiplying the 3 times 5x, I'm going to simplify. I have an x in the numerator and an x in the denominator. So that leaves me with x rad 10x over 15. Always try to simplify when you have it broken up. It's going to be a little bit easier for you. Okay. Again, I'm going to simplify before I rationalize. And that rad r cubed can be broken into rad r squared rad r. That gives me 3 over r rad 5r. And now let's rationalize it. This was a perfect square, which gave me r. So if we rationalize it, we're going to multiply it by rad 5r over rad 5r. 3 rad 5r One's outside, one's inside. We can't combine those. R times 5R. Nothing can cancel in numerator and denominator. So my answer is 3 rad 5R over 5R squared. That's a good one. We're distributing. We have a monomial times a binomial. So we're going to distribute that monomial into each of the terms in the binomial. Rad 2 times rad 2 is 2. Rad 2 times 5 is 5 rad 2. Number 12, a little bit more complex because we've got coefficients and we've got radicals. So that's why it's always good to just write out your work. Show the steps, show your work. Get your brain talking to your eyeballs. So outside with outside is negative 2 times 2 gives me 4. And then we're going to do rad times rad, which gives me 3. Rad 3 times rad 3. And then we have outside with outside. So that's negative 6 rad 3. So my answer is 12 minus 6 rad 3. This is a binomial times a binomial. We're going to use FOIL. We're going to take the first term, we're going to distribute it to the two terms in the second binomial. And we're going to take the second term and we're going to distribute it to the two terms in the second binomial. So we have rad 3 times rad 5 plus rad 3 times, oh, Mr. Mac could have simplified. That's a bad example. I hate when I didn't see that. But technically, we could have simplified that first and made it 2 rad 5. And it would have saved us some time. But for foiling purposes, we'll continue here. And then we have negative 4 rad 5 times rad 5 and negative 4 rad 5 times rad 5. Oh, it hurts just to write it. Rad 3 times rad 5 is rad 15 plus rad 15 minus 4 times 5 minus 4 times 5. So we've got some like terms. Rad 15 plus rad 15 makes 2 rad 15. And this is negative 20 minus 20, which gives me negative 40. You can leave it like that. I'd probably write it this way for me, but both are correct. And notice rad 15 cannot be simplified. So I'm always checking to see in my final answer, do I have any radicals that can be simplified? We like this. We hopefully should notice that this is a conjugate, but we'll do out the steps. Rad 5 times rad 5 plus rad 5 times negative rad 2 plus rad 2 times rad 5 plus rad 2 times negative rad 2. Rad 5 times rad 5 is 5. Rad 5 times negative rad 2 is negative rad 10. Rad 2 times rad 5 is positive rad 10. You see that our outside and insides will be opposites and cancel. That's what happens with conjugates. And then you have rad 2 times negative rad 2, which is negative 2. So my inside and outside cancel. I'm left with 5 minus 2, or 3. We love conjugates. So hopefully you did well in this pre-assessment. If you have questions, make sure that you come to the Zoom office hours at 1 o'clock today and come with your questions. Good luck. Hope all's going well, and miss you guys.